you're loud enough and if your story is bold enough, people will listen. And yeah, hone your craft. I think we can never stop learning. And that's also why I love this job. Like I never, no one makes a guy, I guess, a rule book for events, you know. It's, you got to make your own path. And if you keep pushing, I feel like people will notice.
From Kona Juda and Debia, Imune Msindi Swesi, Umvelisen Mele Swesiwe, formerly known as Vazi Madonsel, bringing you a show about creative entrepreneurs live from the landmark that not only birth SA street culture but also formalize the street hustle.
Kona Juda and Debia, special edition, all the way from PE, Gqeberha. We have Tayla Foong, creative agency owner, social media marketing expert, designer. You've worked with agencies, you've worked with creatives, you've platformed people, you've platformed yourself to plateau to the role you're at now. You came all the way from PE, you're like, yo, I'm gonna do social media marketing for Dr. and Mrs. What's your origin story with Joburg and how you get into a point where you empower other creatives?
So yeah, I come from PE like you, and as you all know, kind of in that city, you have to make a name for yourself, and it's fairly easy, I would say. You could, you know, find a concept and roll with it, and people will kind of be attracted to it. But I guess from PE, there's also really interesting creatives that come from there, and hardworking people like yourself. So yeah, I moved to Joburg in 2018, end of 2018, and I got a job at Dr. and Mrs., which was a furniture company and still is. They also have a space in Braamfontein called 99 Juta, which is this beautiful kind of conceptualized design building. And yeah, I just used to work there kind of for them on Saturdays, and I always thought we could throw events in the pink courtyard, which now people still do, but that's kind of how I guess I started growing my community, was really through that building and through the passion projects that I did on the weekends.
Your journey in establishing your first events as food trucks. How do you go from food trucks to activating for Adidas?
I don't know. So my dad is also a cool guy. I'm sure everyone in PE knows him. He has a food truck market called Barkin's Food Truck Friday. And kind of that's where I guess, not only from university, but found my love for events and putting things together, DJ lineups, art direction, all those sort of things, kind of from there. So yeah, it's always been a formula that I kind of formulated back then and just, I guess, reintroduced it here in Joburg. And the first event that we put together was called No Rules Cafeteria, which is also 3 girls coming together just to showcase their passions, which were food, design, and music community. So yeah, just I guess it's a long story of building those different communities, coming together and doing cool things.
How do you establish inside Joburg?
Sure, okay.
For those who don't know, a brief story.
Yeah, I mean, that was still, I guess, when I was working at the time. It was actually just after COVID, and I kind of had the need to, you know, do something again, express myself creatively, but through events. And that's when I spoke to Tabo Housecats, who's also been on the show. Shout out Tabo. I spoke to Joburg Ash, and you know, Ash had the space in Braam at the time.
Shout out for Ash.
Shade. Ash had the space at the time, and we just spoke to Adam as well. And then he said, "Yo, like, you can come through, throw this party." It was actually not a party though. We were trying to spotlight emerging designers. And we named it Inside because it was meant to be the inside voice of kind of the urban culture that was brewing in Braam. So that would be everything from upcoming DJs to fashion designers, plant makers, foodies. And that's kind of why we started that event. Yeah.
Quick interjection.
Sorry.
How does one then conceptualize something like that? How would I go about it? The steps, just for the kid at home.
Steps, yeah.
Trying to formalize it.
I guess you always have to have a concept, and I always tell this to the kids, like when I used to be in Braam, is they would always come to me with ideas, but I'd say that concept is super important. So for us, we didn't really see something like that happening at the time. Sadly, due to funding, we couldn't carry on with it. But I think the second part then is to find funding. And everyone always says this in the industry, it's like you need to get a proof of concept. So that is just, you know, taking that step and throwing the events and kind of seeing what happens after that. And also seeing if brands then have an appetite to kind of back you. But I always say always be original as well. I think in this kind of climate, and there's so much noise in the industry and all of that, but it just is, you have to be different because that is really going to give your career longevity.
How do I find my different?
Yeah, so I think you really have to look inside of you, right? I feel like every person has a very unique story. We all have different kind of like narratives and stories that we've built over time, and whether that's from our family, from our upbringings, from things we're exposed to. So it really is tapping into yourself first before you can then, come up with something that's unique. Because I think there's so many events that happen, but also so many concepts that happen. So maybe it is looking inside, seeing what makes you different, and then finding a way to then express that creatively, but also on a commercial level.
How did you go about approaching the artists? Because there were murals with Inside Joburg. There was a whole proper activation where you get the space, you get the artist. There was a user journey also, because you didn't
Were you there?
use one product. I'm always there.
Fuck.
I'm always there.
Crazy.
There was a whole user journey. So with you establishing something like that, how do we talk to people to do work? Because right now we're in our proof of concept phase. We're just trying to prove this idea works. We're trying to prove people can attend our events. How do you then get the artists to cooperate with the whole thing?
So if I look back to that event, which was, I guess, 3 to 4 years ago, like I had been meeting people on social media, but I'd also had been meeting them, just via being in Braam and going to all these other events. But also because I had been kind of producing my own things as a passion project, they'd kind of been, seeing like they align with it, and then, we kind of connected like that. So I think it's also a personal thing. So first of all, to I guess to get the formalities out the way, you need to have like a presentation that you draft of your concept, how you want to roll it out, who do you want to implement in the event, and all of that. But moreover than that you'll use then to show potential partners what you want to do. But I think the reason people mess with you and the reason they like want to come on board is because they're actually attracted to your energy, So I think having those personal conversations with people that you want to partner with, whether that is a designer, whether that's a DJ or a plant guy or a designer, it is really sharing your vision, and then I guess it's an alignment of their values with yours, and then they'll be cool. They'll be in from the start. And I think throughout all of my project, that has been the kind of story, is that people really just come on board because they feel like they're contributing to something bigger. Yeah.
I'm on this mailing list. Every 3 months, I'll get an email, and it's directed from Dear Friends. What is Dear Friends?
Sure. I need to actually get to doing an emailer. But yeah, it is really that. I think, I probably haven't even unpacked it as much, but I think the reason I called it Dear Friends was because most of the projects that I did as passion projects, that was even way back in PE when no one was getting paid, I think I've listened to your other interviews where people are just calling on favors, but, they also say at what point does that become monetary? So yeah, the agency really started because it was different people coming together with shared values. Most of the time, friends and friends of friends who really said, yo, I have this skill, I know this person. And that's kind of how we built the communities on, calling on favors, friends, and ideas.
I was talking to Ephraim yesterday, and he was like, he's in the business of managing people. And then I was like, I think we're in the business of managing egos. Because I think if it was people, we'd all come to an understanding, but because there's egos involved, this person wants this and that person wants that. How do you maintain relationships?
Yeah, so I guess this is also my personal values, but my dad always, and my parents always told me, you have to be authentic, and people can see through the bullshit, I think. So really just being yourself and being transparent. I think sometimes we kind of like beat around the bush, whether we missed a deadline or we don't get the concept. We beat around the bush and we really just don't sell the true story. So I think just being open, speaking to people, understanding their perspective and yours, and then finding a good solution is always the thing. And I always say this, and I think to myself, like, there's never a no. I think with the ego thing, like people could always say, I'm too cool for this, or, I'm too busy for this, but there's never a no. So I've learned that from the beginning, is just ask, and chances are people will be open. Don't know if that answers your question.
It does answer my question, and it brings back Inside Joburg. How do you deal with it when we execute, everyone on the team pull their weight, but now we can't continue with the idea. How do you also deal with that? Because a lot of us only ever look at our ideas not succeeding by us not implementing, but there's also a level where you've seen this thing grow bigger even when you entered the event and you saw the community.
So obviously, I think this is another point to take, is that you need to choose the friends you work with. So sometimes, and this always happens, like if you go into a project together, everyone always, wants to put their best foot forward in the beginning, but along the line, things change. So I think, again, it's a thing of understanding. We just have to understand that we are on the same page, and then it can go forward. Because I feel like at some point, if people aren't on the same page, it just can go really haywire, and then it creates this really awkward environment. But in an event like that, I think we still did have an idea of like taking it forward in some way. But like I said, the funding was an issue at the time. But then it kind of, I guess, evolved into other projects, which the next project was then the 99 Design Store, which Tabo again was still very much a part of. Yeah.
You go back to Dr. and Mrs. You're like,
Yeah.
I see what you guys did in Kramerville. Let's do something here in Joburg. How do you platform designers? How do you give designers a voice?
A voice. Yeah, so funny enough, like I think we, Adrian from Dr. and Mrs. Had the space at the time. It was actually a gallery before that. So we had done a few gallery pop-ups there. But he just thought maybe if we had like a really cool space at the bottom of the building, that the whole building would kind of flourish, having kind of like the furniture people had moved out since and went to Kramerville after COVID. So yeah, it really was, again, using that network from inside Joburg. I think like I could say 5 to 6 of the designers actually came with us. The first ones being Tabo, Kigi from Long Season, was meant to be Happyville and all those other guys. But yeah, we just kind of created a really good mix of people from just hosting that event, So yeah, just starting and then having a space. But it's all part of a timeline, I think. And that I can't tell you how that happened.
In that moment, how do you discover the ecosystem? Because now it's like, they're coming along, but also this thing has to fund itself. We can't continuously have you. Real space costs money because someone has to do the sales.
For sure.
The electricity being consumed, the presentation, the social media. How did you figure out the business after?
Well, we didn't. I'll be honest. It was always a passion project for me. I think, thankfully, like my agency work really did pay my bills for that time. But yeah, Adrian and the guys from Dr. and Mrs. really did help us back that project. I think they believed in us from the beginning and really wanted to have this purpose of spotlighting designers, which is why the store existed. Sadly, we had to close it in July because Brahm just took a knock, and I think, all the politics that were going on there, we had to close it. But the designers were still super understanding, and, who knows, we might pop up again. Not sure where that is yet, but yeah, not to say that we won't kind of come together again, because it's kind of a natural evolution, I guess.
We've seen you do pop-ups, primarily Boiler Room, and we'd see the whole thing, pick up, give it new life in different venues. What was the reasoning for that?
So that for us, like, to be honest, when we started the store was really when, I guess, people started to recognize the work we do. Before that, it was me just playing around and seeing kind of like what would stick. But the store was really something that had longevity, If anyone is listening to this and would want to back it, call me up. Let's go. We would definitely be keen to still do that, because I think it's such an important story, and the way that, we started unearthing new designers. That was actually why we wanted to do all these pop-ups, because even like a Boiler Room situation is where, we're connecting with people from overseas, and when they saw the products, they loved it, All the Boiler Room guys went home with shopping bags to their family and friends, and still to this day, they're really like involved. I think that's why, I had never seen them actually do a specific post about design on their Instagram feed. So that was crazy when they said to us, we want to feature you, can you just answer all these questions? And I think even for them, like coming from a platform or like a global platform, to recognize these designers and say, this is great work, was crazy for us. So the pop-ups are great. We did a few, the Boiler Room, we did Cape Town, but it was just for exposure, because I think in Brahm, while it's a cool place, you can still be very isolated, especially where we were, further down the road. So it was a great way for us to get our name out there and also, empower the designers, which I think was the goal from the beginning.
Were you able to sort of quality control the product? Because you'd have like a Asa Sedan where it's like it's ridiculously great, and then you had a variation of new designers.
Yeah, so we always had a very like strict process, maybe too strict at times, but we kind of only picked designers who we thought were internationally, like they could be international designers, and I think most of them are. You look at Boyd, who is selling basically things in New York now. You look at Sash, who's also an amazing designer. Refuse, who've done pop-ups in Milan. So we wanted to spotlight those designers who weren't just people making T-shirts or people that just have this idea like today, but tomorrow, they have something else. So it really was people who were passionate about fashion, and I think that's who we were looking for. And still, I think if we do it again, it's the same process, to keep things strict and to keep things at a certain level, because I think everyone, even young designers, need that. There needs to be an industry standard, so yeah.
Industry standard exists. You work in industry. The agency was keeping everything afloat. How does a young kid go about creating an agency, and how do you service clients and speak to corporate? Because as much as people go to school, it's a different chat when you're in a room with TFG and they're like, okay, cool, so what's up?
Yeah, so I think you got to do the work, right? So this agency thing, I mean, it didn't happen overnight. I could tell you that. I had been doing like the groundwork or hosting events and figuring things out. I had been making mistakes and I don't want to give away my age here, but about 10 years, since I was at school, we've been doing this. So it's not an overnight thing. I think you really have to think about, is this what you want to do? You have to have an actual passion for it, because I think everyone can tell you agency work is very tricky. Like, you got to manage clients, you got to manage the brands, you got to manage the concepts, and it's not Mickey Mouse, or I don't know. It's not like easy things to do. So I think it's to put in the work first and then bounce off your peers. Like I think one of the other people that really inspire me at the moment is Amka, makeup artist. So she is super cool because she's young. She's probably like 20 years old, but she does shadow a lot of industry professionals. And I think before you start your agency, perhaps do that first. Shadow, I guess, these people who you aspire to be, or be like, or admire their work, and then hopefully you can see if you really do want that to be part of your story. Yeah.
You're in the room, how do you know how to charge? Because you've been doing this from a level of, these are the expenses, we'll operate the event, and whatever we make is great. But now corporate is coming and say, yo, we have 2 million. Can you facilitate this? How do you get your personal price? Because I think a lot of us find ourselves in that position once we figured out how to do the actual thing, but we don't know how to price at that level yet.
So I learned this, I guess, from, again, shadowing someone who I really admired. I kind of learned and, I guess, heard from other people what to charge. So I know talking about money is a really weird thing, but we just have to be transparent. Yeah, I think you got to charge a percentage, but also work out your hours, work out your daily rate, and then work out what the project costs, and I guess multiply that by your daily rate, if that makes sense. But what I can say is, when you want to start your business, do it right. So I think don't use an accountant who you, friends of a friend, an uncle, an aunt. Go to someone reputable who doesn't really know your personal business. So I would do that, and I would also register your business if you want to be serious about things, and then get all the formalities in place, email addresses, logos. Just look professional from the get-go, and I think people do, or corporates will be attracted to that. Yeah.
What's the reality of eventing in South Africa that a lot of people should be aware of before they risk their whole livelihood?
So, yeah, events are hard work. I don't know if anyone knows this. And also, from my personal experience, I might be wrong. I guess you've spoken to other people, but events don't make money if it's for your personal stuff. So I think it only makes money when you, I guess, have a budget from a corporate or, someone else, a client who wants to do an event. I've never made money through all of my events. It was more maybe covering costs, but I think what the monetary value really was the, content that came out of that, and the portfolio pieces, photographs, videos, but it's not you won't make money from events. I don't know, maybe someone else can tell you this.
Yeah.
But unless you get a hectic sponsor, it's very tough. And events are hard work. I would say it's not just, looking pretty on the day and, coming together on the last day and everything is set up. I think a lot of the times you see us in the field, in the trenches. Like this event we did the past week, it was really tough because we were there for 18 hours per day. We didn't sleep, so there's no sleep in events, basically.
Before we started the interview, you were like, you were anxious. You don't like doing these a lot. What's the one question you wish you were asked on a platform?
Don't do the interview. I don't know. Yeah, I think just maybe I don't know, that's a tricky one. Because I've been asked a lot of questions, and most of the time I think whether it was the store or whether it was my own things was more or less the same kind of like questions. But I don't know, you can throw it out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, I've looked at your journey, reflected, and you don't realize how much someone has done until you have to go back and research and prepare for an interview. And I was like, okay, cool. She was at Barkins, she did with Dr. and Mrs., you did a 99, you did at Boiler Room, you did it for TFG. What keeps you going? Because at some stage, I've been there. I was like, maybe I should just get a job.
Maybe.
And
I
just
say this to myself.
At 5 o'clock, go home, find peace,
Right?
have a routine.
It would be so chilled. But I think I say that to myself every day, actually. I said it to myself probably 2 days ago. Like when I'm there at the event, setting up at like midnight, I swear to God, I was like, what the fuck? Can I swear on this platform? Yeah. Like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Please give me a job. I was saying that, and that was last week. And I feel like this job or any business, you'll have those moments every day. This job is really crazy. I mean, I don't know. I think any creative job requires you to either love it or you're going to hate it. And I think most of the time it's this balance of a love-hate relationship. You just have to find out whether it's worth your while. And that could be money or it could be, the drive that you get from it. But I also think for me, I'm able in this position to put a lot of people on, whether that is people that are just working for us or brands that we get to spotlight, and that money can't buy that. Money can't buy the happiness that those people feel when they are seen, and that for me is wild.
It's a beautiful way to view it. Because for me, I looked at it as like, yo, you're doing all these amazing things. How did you build a team? I think that's probably...
Well, I don't have a team. I don't know if anyone knows
I've seen regular faces.
Yeah.
I've seen regulars.
So I have like a few, I guess, freelancers that we use. And they also kind of just... They always ask me when we're doing things and they want to get involved. It's not also for them, it's not a monetary thing. It's more we're doing cool stuff and they want to be a part of it. So it's always been that. I think the people that we do have are amazing. It's not about money for them. While they're getting paid for something, it's more about like the results and the impact. So yeah, I think we all just really, we hate it, but we love it more. Yeah. And I couldn't do a desk job probably. I mean, I ask people this and they're like, you can't, no. You're not that person. Yeah. And you too, I don't think you could sit there at a desk looking at the same four walls. I don't think that's for you.
What if the check is enough?
I don't think it's money.
I'll find the happiness somehow. I'll do something on weekends.
Maybe your Porsche and house there in Hyde Park will be lekker.
And a little puppy.
I'm telling you. But you'll be bored, eh? You won't be speaking to interesting people. I think that's your purpose.
Damn.
Can we interview him next?
Say in the comments.
Yeah.
Nominate an interviewer. What's your word to the youth?
Keep pushing. I always say this to most of the guys who I meet in Braam. Keep pushing, and I think if you're loud enough and if your story is bold enough, people will listen. And yeah, hone your craft. I think we can never stop learning. And that's also why I love this job. Like no one makes a rule book for events, It's, you got to make your own path. And if you keep pushing, I feel like people will notice. It's that hard work ethic that I'm attracted to, and I think just in general, people will see.
You're one of a few people who've made business in Braam, who successfully managed to stay afloat in a very tricky place. What would you say Braam has taught you in the couple of years you've spent there?
Brahma's taught me a lot, eh? Now that I'm not there every day, you miss it. There's a certain energy there, certain hustle that I think people and everyone who goes there is attracted to. So it really is that hustle of doing more than you're supposed to do, and putting in the hard work. I think for us, like especially in the space we were in, it was always kind of like trying to innovate our story and trying to see what will get people back. So I think innovation maybe and hard work, that's what it taught us. Because sometimes the lights weren't on for weeks on end. So be resilient. Yeah.
Tayla Foong, Konachute and beer.
Shout out.
Very special edition.
Thank you.
With the weight.
Thank you.
And it was short.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sure.